From the moment you could dream, you were told to chase. Chase success, chase love, chase approval. Chase the right body, the right job, the right life. You were told that if you fixed the outer pieces, the money, the status, the relationships, the achievements, the inner ache would finally disappear. But here you are. You've tried. Maybe you've succeeded at some of it. Maybe you've fallen short. Either way, you've noticed something terrifying. No matter what you gain or lose, the feeling remains. The quiet emptiness. The restless dissatisfaction. That nagging whisper, why do I still feel this way? It's not because you're broken. It's not because you're failing. It's because the entire way you've been taught to create change is backwards. Everything you've ever been taught about happiness has one thing in common. It keeps you looking outward. The world says, fix your life, then you'll finally feel peace inside. But have you ever noticed that every external fix eventually fades? The excitement of a new job wears off. The relationship you thought would complete you becomes complicated. The perfect body still looks imperfect in the mirror of your own mind. It's not that these things don't matter. It's that they cannot do what you secretly hope they will, make you whole. Because the hole you're trying to fill does not exist outside. It's in the thoughts you believe, the fears you protect, and the judgments you carry in silence. And as long as those remain, no outer change can last. Here's the truth that no one teaches you. Your world is not causing your pain. Your world is reflecting it. What you see, what you experience, and what you keep running from, all of it is a mirror of the beliefs, fears, and conflicts alive within you, the arguments that follow you from job to job, the relationships that feel different at first but end in the same wounds, the situations that trigger the same anxieties, no matter how much you try to move on. They're not coincidences. They're reflections. They're showing you the state of your inner world. But most people never realize this. They spend their entire lives rearranging the mirror, trying to polish the glass, not understanding that the reflection won't change until they do. There is only one way the cycle ends. You stop trying to fix the picture and start healing the projector. You turn inward. Not to wallow, not to escape, but to see clearly. To recognize the fear-driven thoughts that shape your perception. To notice the judgments and stories that cloud every interaction. To let them go so that peace has room to replace them. This is not wishful thinking. This is the foundation of every real transformation. Because when you shift the inside, the outside has no choice but to follow. Not because you force it, but because your perception changes. And when perception changes, your entire reality begins to reorganize around that new state. Opportunities that once felt out of reach start to appear. Conflicts that seemed impossible to resolve suddenly soften. Even the same circumstances look different, lighter, more manageable, less threatening, because you're no longer looking at them through the lens of fear. Maybe you're wondering, why does this matter so much now? Because the world has never been louder, faster, or more demanding. We live in a time where everything feels unstable. Jobs, relationships, even the future itself. Anxiety is at record highs. People are burning out, checking out, or numbing out, hoping that something external will finally bring relief. But nothing outside can give you the stability you're searching for. Not anymore. The only safe ground left is the one inside you, the space where fear is surrendered and peace takes root. From that space, you can face anything. You stop being a victim of circumstances. The noise of the world loses its power to control your emotions. And ironically, when you stop grasping for external fixes, life itself begins to align. The chaos softens. The right people, opportunities, and solutions begin to flow, not because you chase them, but because your inner state no longer blocks them. Right now, you have a choice. You can keep chasing the same solutions the world has offered you 1,000 times, the next achievement, the next distraction, the next quick fix. And you will keep arriving at the same place, that restless question echoing in your mind, why do I still feel empty? Or you can choose differently. You can stop rearranging the picture and finally heal the place it is all coming from, your mind. This isn't about perfection. It's not about denying your goals or rejecting the world. It is about discovering the one shift that actually works, changing the inside so the outside can finally reflect something new. This is the awakening. The moment where your life can begin to transform, not because the world changes, but because you do. You think the world is happening to you, but what if it isn't? What if every frustration, every conflict, every repeating struggle is not random at all, but the reflection of something deeper? Because here's the truth that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. The world you see is not an independent reality. It is the mirror of your mind. Imagine for a moment that you're wearing a pair of tinted glasses and you've worn them for so long that you forgot they were there. Everything you see is colored by them. The world seems dark, threatening, or unstable, but it's not because the world itself is that way. It's because your lens is. This is how most of us live. We don't see the world as it is. We see it as we are. Our fears, judgments, and old wounds act as filters, shaping every experience before we're even conscious of it. That coworker's comment feels like an attack because your mind is primed to expect criticism. That opportunity feels impossible because your mind still clings to beliefs of unworthiness. That relationship feels fragile because your mind projects past pain onto the present moment. The world is not doing these things to you. Your lens is. And until that lens is changed, every outer solution will just repeat the same patterns. Think about the times you thought, if I just change this, I'll finally feel okay. Maybe it was leaving a job, moving to a new city, finding a new partner, or fixing a habit. And for a moment, it worked. The excitement of the new felt like freedom. But over time, the old feelings crept back in. The same frustrations, the same fears, the same emptiness. Why? Because you brought the same lens with you. You rearranged the stage, but the script, the mind's quiet, relentless voice of fear and judgment, never changed. And so the story had to repeat. This is why so many people spend their lives in a loop, searching for the next goal to chase, distracting themselves when the emptiness returns, wondering why peace feels so temporary, no matter what they achieve. It's because they're trying to edit the reflection instead of healing the projector. Science has proven it. Spirituality has whispered it for centuries. And your own life has probably shown you, if you look closely. Your perception is not just a filter. It's the foundation of your entire reality. When your inner world is full of fear, the world feels hostile. When your mind is dominated by scarcity, the world feels lacking. When judgment fills your thoughts, conflict seems to follow you everywhere. But when your inner world shifts, when peace replaces fear, when compassion softens judgment, when you stop gripping so tightly to control, the outer world reorganizes in ways that feel almost miraculous. Not because the universe suddenly changes its rules, but because you are finally seeing without distortion. The same coworker's comment doesn't sting. You hear it differently. The same challenges don't paralyze you. You face them with clarity. The same relationships don't collapse. You approach them with calm, not fear. The world feels lighter not because it's new, but because you are. If it's so powerful, why doesn't everyone live this way? Because the ego, the part of the mind that thrives on control and conflict, resists it at all costs. The ego wants to keep you focused outward, forever trying to fix, defend, or achieve, because that keeps you distracted from the one thing that would end its grip, inner peace. Peace is the ego's end. If you truly recognize that your perception is shaping your reality, you'd stop fighting shadows outside and start dissolving the fear within. And once you do that, the ego loses its purpose. This is why inner work often feels uncomfortable at first. The mind will tell you it's too simple, too woo-woo, or a waste of time. It will insist that the real problems are out there and that you'd be better off just grinding harder or finding new distractions. But ask yourself, has that ever truly worked? Or has it only kept you running in circles? Here's the quiet secret that can change everything. At any moment, you can choose again. You can notice the fear-driven thought that's coloring your day and choose to let it go. You can recognize the judgment that is turning a simple interaction into a battle and choose to release it. You can see the story of unworthiness that makes every opportunity feel out of reach and choose to no longer believe it. This choice, this willingness to see differently, is the beginning of real change. Because the moment you stop clinging to the lens of fear, a new perception begins to take its place. One rooted in peace, not panic. One grounded in clarity, not chaos. And when that perception takes root, the outer world responds. People treat you differently. Opportunities appear where you thought there were none. Even challenges stop feeling like punishments and start feeling like steps on a path you can actually trust. You can spend your life trying to fix the outside, and most of the world will encourage you to do exactly that. But the truth is, no amount of effort will ever bring the peace you seek if your mind remains in conflict. Because peace isn't something you earn by fixing your life. It's something you choose right now by shifting the way you see. When that inner shift happens, everything else becomes easier. The same goals don't feel heavy, they flow. The same relationships don't feel fragile, they grow. The same world doesn't feel hostile. It starts to reflect back the peace you carry. This is not magic, it's clarity. It's the result of finally living from the inside out instead of outside in. If you want your life to change truly, deeply, permanently, stop asking, what can I fix out there? And start asking, what am I believing, seeing, and carrying in here? Because once the inside changes, the outside cannot help but follow. The moment the inside begins to shift, something extraordinary happens. The world you thought you knew, the one you believed was fixed, rigid, and indifferent, begins to move with you. Not because the universe suddenly bends its rules. Not because you've gained some mystical power, but because, for the first time, you are seeing clearly. And when you see clearly, everything changes. Every interaction you have, every decision you make, every opportunity that finds or avoids you is influenced by what you're bringing into the moment. Before the shift, most people carry an invisible weight, an energy of fear that assumes conflict is inevitable, a sense of lack that quietly tells them they're not enough, a need to defend, to prove, to chase, as if life is a battle to be survived rather than an experience to be lived. These inner states ripple outward. People feel them, even if no words are spoken. Situations reflect them, even if you can't see how. Life mirrors back the unrest you carry, not as punishment, but as a signal. This is what you're choosing inside. But when the inside shifts, when you let go of fear, when you allow peace to settle, when you stop grasping at control, the signal you send to the world changes. And the response changes with it. People treat you differently, not because they've changed, but because you're no longer approaching them through defense or need. Opportunities arise, not because the universe has suddenly favored you, but because you can finally notice what was always there, hidden behind your panic. Even problems feel different. They no longer consume you because you are no longer meeting them with a mind already at war. Perhaps the clearest evidence of this shift shows up in your relationships. Before the inside changes, relationships often feel like battles, not always loud or explosive, but battles nonetheless. A constant balancing act of expectations, disappointments, unspoken fears, and silent resentments. Every word is filtered through defense. What do they mean? Are they against me? Am I good enough for them? What do I need to do to keep them? Even love in this state feels fragile, a thing to protect, manage, and control. But when your inner state shifts, something beautiful happens. The walls come down. The need to defend softens. You begin to approach others without the armor, without the quiet desperation for them to fill the holes in your own heart. And suddenly, connection feels lighter. Arguments don't de-escalate because you are no longer fueled by the ego's need to win. Misunderstandings don't spiral because you can hear the other person without projecting old wounds. Even difficult relationships become less toxic because you are no longer feeding them with your own fear and reactivity. You may notice some relationships naturally fade, not because of anger, but because your new state no longer aligns with those who thrive on conflict. And that's okay, because what remains and what enters are relationships built on something far more stable than fear. When your mind is clouded by fear, life feels limited. Every decision is weighed down by doubt. Every idea is second-guessed. Every risk feels like a threat, not a possibility. But when fear loosens its grip, space opens. Ideas that once felt overwhelming suddenly feel doable. Opportunities that seemed invisible are now obvious. Paths that felt blocked reveal themselves because your mind is no longer busy rehearsing everything that could go wrong. It's not that these opportunities didn't exist before. It's that your inner storm made it impossible to see them. Once the storm quiets, life feels different, not because it suddenly became easy, but because you can finally navigate it with clarity. This is why so many people describe the inner shift as a kind of unlocking. The outer world hasn't changed, but it feels entirely new because your perception is no longer trapped in fear's narrow tunnel. The greatest change, however, isn't in relationships or opportunities. It's in how you feel, no matter what's happening around you. Before the shift, life feels like a constant threat. A single mistake, a sudden change, or a bit of bad news is enough to send your mind into overdrive. Every problem feels like proof that you're unsafe, unworthy, or doomed to struggle forever. But when your inner state is grounded in peace, the outer chaos loses its power. Problems still arise, but they no longer define you. Unexpected changes still come, but they don't destroy your center. Even pain, the kind that once consumed you, becomes something you can face, not as a punishment, but as part of a process you can trust. This doesn't make you passive. It doesn't mean you stop pursuing goals or solving problems. It means you stop fighting shadows. You stop adding layers of fear and judgment to every challenge. And in that space, solutions come more easily, decisions feel lighter, and life no longer feels like a constant emergency. When this shift becomes your way of living, confidence takes on a new meaning. It's no longer about building yourself up, proving yourself, or forcing yourself to feel worthy. It is a quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't need validation because it isn't built on conditions. You trust yourself because your mind is no longer your enemy. You trust life because you've seen how peace changes the picture. And you trust that whatever comes, you can meet it without losing yourself. This is the confidence everyone is searching for, whether they know it or not. It's not found in achievement or image. It's found in the simple, steady knowing that the one thing that truly matters, your inner state, is no longer at the mercy of a chaotic world. The changes that unfold when you live this way are not always dramatic on the surface, but they are undeniable. A life that once felt heavy begins to feel lighter. The relationships, opportunities, and even challenges that come your way no longer trigger the same reactions. The world hasn't changed, you have, and that single shift begins to reshape everything. But there is one final piece, one truth that ensures this transformation lasts. Because if you don't embrace it, the old patterns will creep back in, and the ego will find new ways to pull you into its cycle of fear. And now, listen closely, because everything we've explored, every shift, every truth, every glimpse of freedom, comes down to this moment, not tomorrow. not one day, right now. There is a decision waiting for you, a decision most people avoid for their entire lives, and yet it's the only decision that will ever set you free. Will you keep living from the outside or will you finally live from the inside out? Most people will never choose this, not because they can't, but because the ego whispers too loudly. It tells them, if I just get one more thing, I'll finally feel whole. If I just fix this person, this job, this situation, everything will be okay. If I stop pushing, I'll lose everything I've worked for. And so they keep chasing, keep fighting shadows, keep rearranging the picture on the wall, never realizing the projector is still cracked. They wake up year after year asking the same silent question, why do I still feel empty? And they settle for distractions instead of freedom. But you don't have to. The inner shift isn't about escaping your life. It's not about pretending problems don't exist or forcing yourself into fake positivity. It's about courage. The courage to stop running from yourself. The courage to face the fears, judgments, and stories that have silently ruled your mind. The courage to let them go, even when the ego screams that you'll be nothing without them. Because on the other side of that courage is something you've been seeking all along. A peace so deep, so steady, that the chaos of the world can't shake it. And from that peace, life begins to move differently. Not because the world suddenly becomes perfect, but because you finally stop distorting it through fear. Imagine this. You wake up tomorrow and nothing in your outer world has changed. The same job, the same relationships, the same circumstances, but you are different. The constant tension in your chest is gone. The anxious thoughts that once ruled your mornings are quiet. The world feels softer, not because it changed, but because your mind finally released the grip of fear. Conversations flow more easily. Challenges feel lighter. Opportunities stand out where before there were only walls. And even when problems arise, they don't feel like proof that life is against you. They simply become steps you can walk, one at a time, without losing your center. This is not a fantasy. This is what happens when you stop trying to fix the reflection and finally heal the source. But there is another picture, the one that plays out if you don't choose this path. It's the life most people live. The cycle continues. The chasing, the proving, the endless search for that one thing that will finally make the ache disappear. Each solution gives a temporary high until the emptiness creeps back in. Years pass, the body ages. The list of achievements grows, and yet the same silent whisper follows. Why does it still feel like something's missing? Not because life is cruel, but because the lesson was never learned. Nothing changes outside until you change inside. So here's the choice laid bare. You can keep doing what the world taught you, hustling, fixing, distracting, and hoping. Or you can step into something entirely different. You can choose to live from the inside out, to release the fear, the stories, the judgments that keep your lens clouded, to let peace, not panic, become the foundation of your life, to finally experience the freedom that doesn't come from getting more, but from needing less. This choice is not about waiting for the perfect moment. It's about making the moment perfect by choosing now. Listen carefully, because this is the heart of everything. The life you want is not waiting somewhere in the future. It is not hidden behind the next goal, the next relationship, the next version of yourself you're trying to create. It's here. It's now. It begins the moment you stop trying to change the picture on the wall and start healing the mind that's projecting it. When you choose this, everything shifts. Your relationships, your opportunities, your confidence, your sense of purpose, all of it begins to realign, not because you forced it, but because you finally changed the one thing that truly matters, the inside. So here is your invitation. Stop waiting, stop chasing, stop fighting shadows. Decide right now that your life will no longer be dictated by a fearful mind. Decide to see differently. Decide to let peace, not panic, guide your perception. And watch as the world you once thought was fixed begins to transform around you. Not because it owes you anything, not because you forced it, but because, for the first time, you have changed, and the world has no choice but to follow. This is the moment everything can change. Not when the outside fixes itself, but when you finally take the only step that was ever real, transform the inside, and let the outside become a reflection of the peace you carry. This isn't a theory. It's not a trick. It's the way life actually works. And the moment you choose it, you'll never go back.